everybody, and welcome to another board game discussion video. This video is part one of a three-part series where I'm going to be talking about two-player games. In this particular one, I'm just going to be discussing what brought on the idea to do this little series, where I'm thinking that the games are going, the industry is going with this, and essentially questioning why this kind of thing is happening. You'll see what I mean in just a little bit. The other two videos are going to be not top 5, but top 10 videos, two of them about two-player board games. That said, before I get started, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at my Facebook and my Twitter pages, where I post new videos, contests, giveaways, fun articles, all sorts of different stuff. And as always, it's another great way to interact with me. So, with that, we're going to go right on ahead and get started. Like I mentioned, I wanted to talk today about two-player games. You guys know that I am a huge proponent of games that can play multiple numbers of players. I'm a big fan of replayability as well as modularity in games, where you can change the actual mechanics that are happening, and for the purpose of this video, games that play well with multiple numbers of players, whether it's 1, 5, 10, whatever, however many people it is. And for this particular video, there are three major games that I wanted to talk to that, to me at least, are indicating sort of a trend. The first one is the first one that I was aware of, and I believe it was the first of this sort of trend that we've been seeing, and that is Seven Wonders Duel. That's right, today we are going to be talking all about games that are effectively being re-released for the purpose of two-player games, right? You guys know I am a fan of Seven Wonders, right? It's not my favorite game, but I do enjoy it. In Seven Wonders, the idea is that you're building up and you're trying to do set collection, card drafting, all this kind of thing. In Seven Wonders Duel, it's essentially boiling down that same gameplay into just a two-player card-driven game. So the thing is that this is a great game. Let's just cards on the table, metaphorically. The thing is that this is a very enjoyable game. It got rave reviews from the critics. I personally really do enjoy it. That's why I got it, and all this kind of thing. But then I thought to myself, why does this exist? What is it about this game? Because particularly for Seven Wonders, the main game, the main Seven Wonders game, is pretty quick to play as it stands. It's really simple to play. It plays reasonably well with two. It's not great with two players, mostly because you have to sort of trade off playing as one of the dummy players to make the entire thing work. However, that is not a bad thing in my opinion. And for the purpose of this game, when I first saw it, I was like, why does this exist? Like, it's a good game, sure, but it's already short, it's already simple. Like, what more can be added? And again, yes, it is different, but it has the same kind of feel. And that's why I said this particular game started this sort of trend that I wanted to discuss today. And it's interesting because, again, I just worry about what this means. I've done a lot of discussion videos about sort of trends with like Kickstarter and miniatures and all that kind of stuff, where I'm just sort of scared of where everything goes. And now I'm worried once again that board games are going the way of video games, where essentially we're going to end up with re-releases with slight little tweaks and stuff like that. Now, as it stands right now, for board games at least, I personally don't feel compelled to like buy expansions, for example, unless there's something that's really, really good. Like, if the base game is good, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this. With video games, it's not so much, where normally, you know, the DLC gets bundled in together with the other thing, and I'm really scared that the same thing is going to start happening with board games. But we digress. Back to the topic. There are two other games that I wanted to talk about. The first one is from one of my favorite science games, and that is Tesla versus Edison Duel. And I bet you can't guess where they got the title from. That's right, Seven Wonders Duel. And the idea is exactly the same, where you have the boiled down idea of Tesla versus Edison into a two-player card game where you literally have somebody playing as Tesla and somebody literally playing as Edison. This is on Kickstarter right now, at least as I'm filming this, and it's just, again, I don't understand why it exists. Not in the same level as Seven Wonders, okay? Because let's face it, with Tesla versus Edison, it is a relatively long game. It's not arduous, but it's strategically heavier, at least. It's not light, but it's also not extremely heavy. So I can understand having a little bit of a lighter version, but again, like, why do you want to re-release essentially like an offshoot game. It just seems so weird to me. Okay, and last but not least is something that's almost identical, which is Caverna Cave versus Cave. Now, neither Tesla versus Edison Duel or Caverna Cave versus Cave are currently out. Caverna, I believe, has like a June release date in the EU, and who knows when it's going to come out in the US. And then, like I said, Tesla versus Edison Duel is currently on Kickstarter, so they're going to have their fulfillment thing. But again, everybody who has seen, particularly Tesla versus Edison Duel, is raving about it and saying, you know, like, it is the new Seven Wonders Duel. And I'm just like, what's going on here? Like, what is wrong with the way that these games already exist? Why is that such a bad thing? Why is it such a terrible thing to have these games exist as they currently stand? Caverna, similarly to Tesla versus Edison, is a game that is fairly complex, but you can play it solo. You can also play it with 2 players, and it works reasonably well. It's not great, but it's reasonable. The thing is that if I'm going to play a game with 2 players, I don't want to reach for Caverna. I want to reach for something like Battle Line, right? I want to reach for one of these other games that is really like better balanced and better focused on 2 players, okay? And maybe that's like, is that the entire point? Are they just trying to get a bigger market share? Are they trying to get more money off of the IP? My guess is yes, essentially, where it's, you know, if they have a winning formula, whether it's Caverna or Seven Wonders or Tesla versus Edison, they know that this game is popular, they know that it works, so they're like, okay, how can we squeeze more out of it? And to an extent, I understand, because, you know, these places, they're businesses, they need to make money, they need to do that, but at the same time, I'm just like, why are you doing it in this way? I don't play Tesla versus Edison because I want to play with 2 players. Just like I just mentioned, I don't play Caverna because I want to play with 2 players. And I've played that relatively rarely anyway. You know, if I want to play a 2-player game, I'm going to play one that's designed more for that. And I just find it so weird because, like, Seven Wonders Duel has grown on me a little bit, but at the same time, there are other games that I like a lot more. Now, again, this, I guess, is part of the Danny is a Fuddy-Duddy series in terms of I can't accept the new and shiny things and all this kind of stuff. But as a gamer, I just feel like I'm being bled out, essentially, because I want to try all these games, I really do, but like, if I'm going to be paying like $30 or $40 for a game, it can only be played with 2 players? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? I will tell you, Seven Wonders Duel, this game right here, I got on clearance for $8. That's the only reason that I bought it, is because it just so happened to be super cheap, right? That is literally why I have it. Otherwise, I would not own it myself. And and that's really what it boils down to, is that I as a gamer personally want to see the versatility. I want to see something where I can bring different numbers of friends and have essentially like a set game box, which is essentially what I do when I go to FLGS's. But if I have a bunch of games that are only for 2 players, or only for 4 players, or only for 5 players, or whatever it is, they're never going to get played. It just doesn't make any sense. And as filler games, sure, maybe they can work. But again, me personally as a gamer, I just feel like they're taking up space, and I just feel like it's bleeding me out when I'm like, I want to buy other things and unique things. Now, that said, don't even get me started on these really expensive Kickstarter games. That's a whole different story that I talked about briefly before. But that said, as I mentioned, this is only part 1 of my 3-part series, so be sure that you come back next week and the week after so that you can see my top 10 videos on 2-player games. But as always, you guys know that I love hearing from you on all of these discussions and all of these topics. So please say anything and everything in the comments below. What do you think of these 2-player exclusive re-releases, effectively, these rebalances, whatever you want to call them? Do you think that they're good for the industry? Do you think that they're bad? Do you feel like we're being taken advantage of? Like, what are your thoughts on it? You guys know I love hearing from you, and I look forward to it, as always, but more importantly, I will see you next week for my first top 10 video. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.